All right. I want to know, Rob, are you surviving in the UK heat? Because I know that your little recording studio is up on the top floor of your flat. So, how is it up there today?
Yeah, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I am the hottest a person has ever been. Um,
I saw you tweeting about the weather, and at the time I didn't realize that there was another heat wave in the UK because it's just been the last couple of days, right? As we record this.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, the tweet that you saw that was from last night, and
Right.
it was really hot. I mean, it was like 9, 10 o'clock, and it was still really hot. And we then had the most incredible thunderstorm for about 2 hours.
Oh wow.
So you get the rumble of the thunder, and it
Right.
it was just non-stop for about 2 hours, and then the
Wow.
sky was just lit up that whole time. It was nice to see, but of course, I had to be up for work in the morning, so I didn't really want to be out in the garden watching it.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of largely escaped the last heat wave. Like, wasn't it like 2 or 3 weeks ago that France was having a very big heat wave, and Italy and some other parts of Europe?
Yeah, we got a little bit of that, but maybe only for a day or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of missed out on a lot of that. But this one, I mean, tomorrow allegedly, sort of London way, it's going to be like 39 degrees, which is 102 for the Americans.
Wow. Yeah, leading up to, I guess, last, I'm trying to think of my dates. About most of last week I was in Southern California in Los Angeles, and leading up to that when we were back home in Chicago, it was the same kind of thing where we'd have these really violent storms that would roll through almost every day kind of towards the end of the day because it was extremely hot and humid for days on end. And actually while we were gone, it got even hotter here. It was in the kind of mid 90s. It was really really awful, but it was nice and it's just about perfect in Southern California. It was sunny, 80s. It was a good 15 degrees cooler in Los Angeles than it was in Chicago, which is kind of uncommon. But I wasn't complaining because I was outside and walking around a ton.
Yeah, yeah, I could do with just any kind of sort of feeling cold, even for a second.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and even when they do have air conditioning in the UK, my experience is that it's kind of weak sometimes, at least compared to what we're used to in the United States. I know that there was a big feud is probably a little too strong between Mike Hurley and Federico, who roomed together for WWC, about the air conditioning in their hotel room, which was too cold for Federico's sensitive tastes, and I think that that's just kind of the norm in a lot of parts of the United States.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had this. I think I mentioned last time, but we've moved into a new office now. And we've got sort of blocks of desks where there's like four of us in each block, and three of us on the block I sit at want it as cold as possible. We're we're going as cold as we can humanly get it. And then the one other guy is like, no, I maybe don't want it quite that cold. So we've struck a balance and it's fine. It still keeps it pretty decently cold.
Yeah, I
But
have a hard time with temperature in my house too, just because since my office is down in the basement, it tends to be cool down here. So I just keep a sweatshirt, a hoodie down here that I put on when I go to the office, which is even in the summertime I kind of need it. In the wintertime, I've got a space heater though.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not really caring what the rest of the house is doing. You just keep yourself at the right temperature.
I do what I can down here to keep my environment the way I like it. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my foray to Southern California last week. Because
Yes, I'd kind of forgotten you were going, and then I sort of saw it on Instagram.
yeah, I was gone for about 5 days, and it was first 2 days we walked like 20 kilometers each day, and I thought I was going to die. I was so tired. We
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so the first day we walked up and down Venice Beach and up to Santa Monica Pier, where I like to sample the local fast food and make sure that I've tried what every region of any country or part of a country has to offer. So I was in Southern California, and I thought, well, yes, eventually I would get to In-N-Out Burger, but first I wanted to stop at the base of Santa Monica Pier and go to Hot Dog Stick and have a good old fashioned corn dog that I watched them deep fry in front of me.
What even is a
All
corn
right,
dog?
you should look this up on Wikipedia because I know it's there because I sent it to some other Europeans who asked the same question. You may wonder who those are. You can probably guess. And it is a kind of like a cornmeal cornbread batter that you put around a hot dog that's on a wooden stick, and then you dip it in oil just like you would a French fry to fry it. And then when it comes out, it's golden brown, and it's kind of like it has its own bun surrounding the hot dog, and it's always
Yeah, I'm just looking at some pictures on Wikipedia. When you're describing it to me with words, I think, oh, that sounds fine. It's deep fried. It's meat. What's not to like? But to look at, and they have a little cross section photo.
yeah, they do. That's right.
That does not look good.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm sure it is,
Well,
but it looks horrendous in that picture.
they can be good. I will tell you that this one was not so good, and I kind of regretted it. But I did it anyway for science, and because I knew I'd have to talk to you
course.
about it, and it was a good good opportunity to do that. So I did that one day, and my other fast food experience was I did In-N-Out Burger in. I'm trying to remember what town we were in. I guess it doesn't. Where UCLA is, basically, right near the campus of University of California, LA. So we were there, and it was a really nice In-N-Out Burger. It was really big. It seemed very new, but I got to tell you, their fries are terrible. And
well, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
it's never good if the fries are bad.
yes, well, here's the thing about In-N-Out Burger. There are a lot of people who are very into this, okay? And I will probably get some hate mail as a result of this. But I will tell you, I am aware, people of the internet, that you can order your fries well done at In-N-Out Burger. But I don't think you should have to. There's one way to do a fry correctly, and that's crispy, not mushy. And these fries are mushy and feel half cooked. Not a good experience when it comes to fries. But the burgers are very good. They're better than McDonald's. I still think Shake Shack is better, just me. But an In-N-Out Burger is a solid burger choice. And that was my lunch one day when I was out checking out UCLA, which is a very nice university.
Yeah, I haven't because I haven't been to California. I haven't had In-N-Out Burger, so I can't really say. I mean, Shake Shack is at the top of my list as well of the ones that I have tried.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll try In-N-Out one day. Who knows?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, they're hard to find. I think there might be a few outside of California, but they're not anywhere other than the Western United States. So I've had them in Northern California, and there's one in San Francisco near Fisherman's Wharf, and then there's another one I know in Cupertino, not too far from Apple's old main headquarters, but they're much more frequent down in Southern California. That's where you'll find them just about everywhere you go. So if you go to LA sometime, it's worth checking out. The other thing I did is I went to Disney and I saw the Star Wars thing. They have this.
Is this like a whole area?
It is.
Where they've got Star Wars stuff. Is it rides and things, or is it just like a place that you walk around and look at Star Wars related things?
Well, that is what I want to talk about. It is, I would say it's mostly a shopping and eating experience because you go into it. It is an area. There's big mountains. It looks very much like it's very well done. Like you feel like you're on the set of Star Wars. And there's a big Millennium Falcon there, some other spaceships, there's droids, there's a cantina, there's all these different areas, and it's all designed, and the people who run it are all dressed like Star Wars characters. It all looks very realistic, and that's neat. And there is a ride, which is a simulator type ride where you sit in, you sit with, I think it was 6 people total in the ride, and you would sit in these six seats, and there were gunners and engineers, and then some other role, and you had buttons to press, and it was basically like a simulator game on rails. So there wasn't really a way to do it poorly. You just kind of mashed some buttons and shot some TIE fighters and that sort of thing. But it was fun because it kind of jerked you around and made it feel like you were flying a spaceship. Felt pretty realistic, but really that was the only ride. And then there was the cantina, which I was a little put off by the cantina because like when you go in, you can get reservations and eat there, or you can just go in. It's literally the only place you can get alcohol in Disneyland. And of course, I didn't do that. It was 9 a.m. in the morning, but I wanted to see the inside and see what it was like, and it was really cool. But as you walk in, they give you all the regulations. It's like you can't stay more than 45 minutes. You can't have more than 2 drinks, and all these things basically designed to move people in and out of there as quickly as possible, so the line didn't get too long. And the cocktails, it's really all just fancy cocktails with exotic ingredients that with weird space names, and there's like a animatronic DJ playing music, and looks very much like the cantina from one of the first movies. So there's that. There's some places to eat. There's tons and tons of shops. There are, for instance, I think we found the single most expensive thing you can buy at Disneyland, which is a $25,000 custom R2-D2.
And so how did you get it home?
I don't know. I didn't. You know what? And it wasn't clear whether it actually did anything other than was just like a statue, right? It wasn't clear whether it moved or anything like that or lit up. There was like replica Princess Leia necklaces, which were a couple of thousand. It went everything from super high end like that down to all kinds of, little tchotchkes and lots of food places. But that I guess I was a little disappointed only in that there was not more to do other than walk around and see stuff. There is another ride coming sometime in 2020, I guess. So it's not quite finished, but it is pretty fun. And I was there, boy, I got there. The place didn't open until 8, but I got there at 7, and I was there till like 10:30 at night. I stayed all the way to the fireworks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a long day, boy. And we did we left. One of the last things we did, which is really a dumb idea, we did Splash Mountain for a second time and got absolutely drenching wet. And the temperatures dropped pretty low there in the evening. It was like 60 degrees outside, and we were head to toe wet and shaking during the fireworks, and then went back and had to drive like 40 minutes from there back to our Airbnb. But yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. You see a lot of those people who are very into Disney. Disney's I hesitate to call it, but it's like a cult for some people. I think.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? The people who are super, super into Disney. I liked it. I had a lot of fun. I would not go back again, I don't think. Not any time in the next 5 years, just because I don't know. It was, I enjoyed it, and once is enough. But it was the nice thing about Disneyland, which is in California as opposed to Disney World in Florida, is that the size is a lot more manageable. It's not easy to get to any one place when you want to get somewhere, because everything's very curvy and circuitous paths to get from A to B. But it's not a really long distance either. So I did not get particularly tired walking around, but I did put in 12, 13 miles by the end of the day.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. I mean, I don't feel like I have any interest in going to either Disneyland or World, just because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
It's probably not for me.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point.
If you go early in the morning, because it's not super crowded in the morning, but it gets very crowded in the afternoon. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. But I am not super into Disney and don't plan on going back anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you've done it, like you say. If you, unless you're really into it, I can't see. You're not going to sort of go back every single year or something like that.
Exactly. But then you can get like a yearly pass. Like some people go all the time, and I know David Sparks. He works there sometimes, which I find mind-boggling, because he must know some very secret locations that are quiet. But there was just like mass humanity there, and it was hot. It was hot, and there were just people everywhere. But maybe there's a quiet corner you can find to work in. I have to ask him about that sometime.
Well, he's certainly not going to tell you.
It's true.
You can't have other people knowing about it.
I know. Anyway, so what else, Rob? What else is going on?
Well, talking of massive Disney properties.
Oh, yes.
Did you see a bunch of the MCU announcements for like Phase 4 and beyond?
I did, and it's a lot. What is it, like 20 different things? I mean, I know they're not all movies. Some of them are things that'll be on Disney Plus on the streaming service, right?
Yeah, so the next 2 years, there's 5 movies, possibly six. I think they're keeping Spider-Man secret.
Mm.
So it's 5 or 6 movies and then 5 TV shows as well, and that's just the next 2 years. And beyond that, there's other stuff they've announced like Blade and
Right.
Captain Marvel 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they've also sort of announced, but is after the next 2 years.
They're going to try to fix all the things that Sony broke, right? Like Blade and Fantastic Four and all that kind of thing, I think.
Yeah. The Blade thing they actually, like, properly announced, and then they sort of mentioned that Fantastic Four, and they said mutants, but he also clarified later that he just meant X-Men.
All right.
Yeah, both of those are coming at some point. I'm gonna guess, there's probably going to be 4 to 5 years away on those.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, it's interesting too because it's a whole new phase, as they term it, I guess. It's a lot of different things. It's like, I mean, there's connections to the past movies and TV shows and things, but it's really kind of starting over with a whole different group of properties.
Yeah, and Kevin Feige, the guy who's like in charge of all the Marvel Studios stuff, like, he's been in interviews all week, sort of, saying various different things, and you know, there is a lot going on. I mean, even just the 5 TV shows on their own, which is
Right.
over the next 2 years on the Disney Plus streaming service, which I'm definitely signing up for now, even if it's just for those TV shows, because these new TV shows, unlike say the Netflix stuff or like Agents of Shield,
Uh huh.
are gonna properly like be part of the MCU, and there is stuff that's going to happen in the TV shows that will be relevant to the movies.
Oh, interesting. Is Disney Plus gonna be in the UK?
It is, but not immediately. I think we've got like a 3 or 4 month wait after the US get it.
Okay.
But the first MCU TV show doesn't come out until next year anyway.
Right.
I think it's like September, October time next year. So I'm not particularly worried. I'm certainly not signing up before then.
Right. I'm going to definitely sign up for it, I think. I've been rethinking, just like a bigger picture question. I've been rethinking all the streaming that we've got, because things are going to change a lot this fall between that and you've got Apple's thing, and Time Warner's got a whole thing coming that's going to have, I guess Harry Potter and a bunch of older TV shows and HBO and a bunch of other things rolled into it. It's going to be an interesting mix, and I think the one that may die, that may get canceled for me above anything else, might be Hulu, because Hulu's okay, but it's kind of expensive, especially if you have the live thing like I do, and I think I'm kind of over live TV, in the sense that I can, if I really am desperate, I can use an antenna and get like the local news or something. But I'm not a big sports fan, so I don't watch a lot of sports. And there's a fair amount of sports on others on some streaming services anyway. And Hulu Live, between Hulu Live and the regular Hulu, I think it's like $45 a month. So it's, it kind of, if I got rid of that, it would easily support probably whatever Apple and Disney are going to charge.
Yeah, I'm still. I'd kind of forgotten about Apple's, because it's kind of taken so long to get here, and they haven't really said a lot.
No, they haven't.
I'm just going to have to judge that when it comes out.
Right.
But Disney Plus is kind of definitely sold for me, and they've already said it's going to be a relatively cheap price. Hulu's going to be a weird one. I mean, like you say, if it is quite expensive, but it's also where Disney are going to be putting a lot of their
yeah, I know,
adult stuff. So it's like, oh well, are you still going to want it? I mean, I guess it really depends what shows they actually put on there, and if you care enough to either sign up or stay signed up.
Right. Well, they also, you might find that it might be that they do some sort of bundle with Disney Plus, where Disney Plus is a little cheaper if you happen to be a Hulu customer. So that's why I haven't gotten rid of it. I'm keeping my eye on it, because it may be that what I do is I keep Hulu, but I get rid of the live part and just replace it with Disney Plus, because then I'll have plenty of stuff to watch anyway. And the Apple thing, yeah, it's too early to know, but I'll try it just because that's kind of part of my job is to try all their stuff. So I'll at least try it and see how it goes. I mean, I'm still subscribed to News Plus, for goodness sake. I mean, I think it's like me, Federico, and 3 other people in the world.
Right, and people going, oh yeah, it's kind of okay. Yeah, this is fine. Like you just mostly just haven't got around to cancelling it.
Part of it is that, and I have thought about canceling it a couple of times. But you know what? It is kind of handy to have access to the full Wall Street Journal content, which is otherwise expensive, as well as things like the New York Times and the Washington Post. Those publications, those newspapers, which all are behind paywalls, it's handy to have access to those, especially when we're covering news that they do without having to subscribe to them individually. And I do kind of like some of the magazines. I don't find myself dipping into the magazines a lot, but I do browse them periodically, and I do like being able to look through the feed that they send me, and every now and then it does a pretty good job of curating interesting articles that might be fun just to sit down and read now and then, and those are usually in some sort of magazine. But I don't actually go to the magazines and flip through an issue so much, which is probably why it's not working out so well for the publishers, at least from what's been reported. Because I mean, to me, this is just like part of the whole unbundling of media. It's just like CDs were unbundled, albums were no longer a thing and songs became a thing. Now magazines have been unbundled into articles, and articles have become kind of a commodity. It's one reason. I mean, that's a reason why Mac Stories isn't on there. I mean, we want to control how we present our content ourselves, not how Apple does or someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the reason that I don't pay for any like one news service, because I don't. I mean, News Plus presumably would cover me if I was really looking for something like this, but there's no like one place where I think, right, this is where I get all my news from.
Right.
There's articles all over the place, like you say, the sort of 3 big ones that you said, and yeah, News Plus probably does solve that problem, but it doesn't seem like it's sort of gaining traction at all, and maybe people just don't care that much.
Yeah, well, and there's little things about it that are a little that there's friction in that system too that drives me crazy, and maybe it's just because I end up doing linked articles on Mac Stories, because it's a little it's kind of roped off from the web. I mean, there are ways to get to the web. It's easier on iOS actually than on the Mac, and the Mac it's really hard to get to the web version of an article, which drives me bananas. It's I don't know, and maybe I have that backwards, maybe it's the other way around, but I think it's the Mac. But I've just the reason I may have it backwards is because I've just kind of given up trying. It's a whole thing is a little bit siloed off, which I kind of don't like, but on the other hand, it's consolidation of a whole bunch of sources, and it's a pretty. I would give it like a solid B. I mean, it's not great. It's not great, but it's okay. And so far, I'm willing to keep paying for it, but that could easily fall by the wayside, especially if I end up spending more on some video services in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. So have we got anything else?
I don't know. I mean, I've been buying game controllers like nobody's business.
Wait, is this more than the PlayStation controller you bought a few weeks ago?
Yes, of course. I've got more. Let's see. Well, first of all, I dug out my Nimbus Steel series. So I'm lining them up on my desk. I've got the Nimbus Steel series, which is Bluetooth that works with iOS. I've got the PlayStation DualShock. It's the clear version. I bought an Xbox S1, Xbox One S controller, white. That I will those two, the DualShock and the Xbox One, are going to be for testing with iOS 13. And I also have a Game Vice one that goes with the iPad Mini that I haven't used a lot yet, but they sent me to test, and I think I'm going to build this into a giant game controller roundup and history of game controllers with iOS, which is a pretty sad history, I got to say, as well as the promise of the future with Apple Arcade. And the final one I got, I'm going to have to turn around to see what it's called because I kind of forget. It's called the Rotor Riot, and
Okay.
The reason I got the Rotor Riot can be used for drones and with iOS devices. It has a little. It looks a lot like a like an Xbox controller. It's got kind of that layout of the thumbsticks, and it has, you can attach the phone to it. There's like a little thing that sticks out the top and has a bracket to hold it, so it's up above the controller. And the reason I got it is that it's the only controller available for the iPhone that has support for L3 and R3 controls.
Oh right. Oh okay.
And there are only a
That's
few.
weird.
It's rare enough that games have support for that too, though, that they have a list of games you can play with it. I think Fortnite supports it, and I forget which other ones. I have to research it, but it's just part of the whole and that's been available. I think that came out sometime last fall, maybe, because I think that support was in iOS 12. But in any event, I want to kind of go through where game controllers have been, where they are now, and where they're going in the fall, and see which is the best to use, and then test them out both on an iPad, on an iPhone, on a iPad mini, with an external display, on an Apple TV. One of those one of those slightly longer articles we sometimes do on Mac Stories.
Yeah, I've actually just looked to my left and I can see my SteelSeries Nimbus, which, if you remember, I think it was the Apple TV that added all this, which would have been like the 4, but not the 4K one or whatever. It came out around the time that we started this podcast, and we both bought the SteelSeries at the same time, and I basically haven't touched it since. Like, it got put on the shelf that it's on now, and I don't think it's moved since we bought it, since I bought one.
Two things about that. One is, when I've started doing a little bit of research for the story, and when I went back and looked when game controllers support came out, I was shocked at how long ago it was. I mean, it was a really long time ago. And you're right, we both got that really early on, and mine has mostly sat, discharge, always needing a charge before I dig it out and find it and use it. It always needs a charge, and it was always lost. But I have been using it more often lately because there are more games that support it that I've been testing. And on top of that, now that the Xbox and PlayStation supported controllers are coming to iOS, that SteelSeries, which I don't remember. I think we maybe paid. I think I paid like $60 to $70, somewhere in there. It was not cheap for a controller. It was definitely
If I remember correctly, it was about the same price as sort of other controllers. It certainly was for me. It was around the same price as like a DualShock or a Xbox One controller.
Well, now they're going for about $35 on Amazon. So go grab one if you want one. But
oh God,
yeah, I think, I don't know. I just looking at them when I line everything up on the table, you can tell that Sony and Microsoft have more experience and know what they're doing better in making game controllers. They're just better looking controllers, and they feel better in your hand than the Nimbus does. So I'm looking forward to trying them out, and hopefully they'll work similarly or better than the Nimbus does with iOS 13. I'm not super optimistic because they just work with Bluetooth. It's not, I don't think there's anything special going on in iOS, although maybe I'm wrong. I have not watched the developer videos on that yet, but I don't know that the technology is a whole lot different than what the Nimbus is using. But
no, I don't think so. I think probably the only thing they're doing is mapping like those, the Xbox and the DualShock,
right,
the specific buttons back to whatever the developer API is expecting.
Exactly.
I don't think they're doing anything else special.
That's what I've kind of assumed based on what the little I've read, is that it's just a mapping issue in the API. But we'll see. I've got a lot of time to spend fiddling around with that in August. It's one of the last stories I'm going to do before review season, so it's not probably going to be out there until September. I've got a couple of other things in the hopper before then, but it's the fun one, and it's the one I've been able to get packages delivered to me, and hopefully no one comes down here and looks at my 5 or 6 game controllers lined up on my desk and wonders what I've been spending my money on.
No, I'm sure you'll be fine. You need them. You need them for your work.
I do. They're a business expense, so they're all a business expense. I also got a mouse to use with my iPad Pro during Prime Day. I did not boycott Prime Day. I got a $40 MX Master mouse from Logitech.
Yes, somebody in our office bought two of them.
Yeah.
One for the office and one for home.
Yeah, they're really. I mean, those are normally like $80 or $90, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I've been using for years, probably 3 or 4 years. And I checked my order history, and I paid like £80 or £90 for mine.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
And yeah, they were down to like £35 or something.
Yeah, that's roughly what they were here too. So yes, I picked that up during. That was one. I mean, to me, we talked about Prime Day on a show long ago, but Prime Day to me is like the Amazon junk store day. I mean, it's like this terrible garage sale where they sell everything that nobody wants to people who are just happy to get a bargain, even if it is kind of junk. I mean, there's just, to me, there's just so little good stuff during Prime Day. It's very hard to find a good deal. Now, it's not totally true. I mean, I saw some good deals if you really wanted to buy some big ticket items like TVs and stuff like that. And this mouse was a very good deal, but you had to really sift through an awful lot of junk to find good deals.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've said this before when we've discussed it, but like, if you go in knowing that you want a new mouse or a game console or a TV, and you know that's what you want prior to the deals going live, you can probably find a good deal because you know what you're looking for. But like you said, I mean, I didn't buy anything this year. Like, nothing. 2 days and I didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, that's because I don't need anything right now. So, and like you, I kind of had a quick look through the deals, but there was just nothing good there.
It was right before I was going on my trip, and so I didn't have a ton of time to look. But, you know, I saw the mouse, and I knew a lot of people who have used it that like it a lot, both for with a Mac, and I knew from Federico that it works with the iPad Pro. So I thought, yeah, I'll do this. I mean, why not test out those new iOS 13 features? And I also got a 1 terabyte SSD, little small travel Samsung T5 drive, which is, I kind of needed an external drive anyway that was kind of fast and quiet. So, but you know what? It was on sale, but it wasn't on a big sale. It was like $20 off. It was the cheapest it's been on Amazon ever, but it wasn't that far off of what it's been sold for the last few months anyway, because you can always go to like Camel, and, you know, see what the price history is for things.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which I do a lot of the time now too. I think I learned that from you. But
oh yeah, I use that all the time.
It's really good for electronics because it seems like electronics on Amazon are very volatile, especially things like storage and hard drives and that sort of thing.
Yeah, even video games to a certain extent. Like, if there's ones I've been watching, and you can see it every single time. Like for most games, not for some of the bigger ones, but you know, they come out and they're £40 or £50 or whatever, and you can just see the drop. It's like, oh, it's been 2 weeks now, so now it's 40,
right?
And then another couple of weeks, it's going to be 35. You know, I can kind of guess when I'm going to buy a video game based on what it starts at.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good site to do that on. But yeah, I did get a few things, but that, you know, nothing other than that mouse. No giant deals.
No, definitely not. Well, I think that's probably good enough for today. I think that's pretty much everything we had on our list.
All right, yeah, I think so. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to watching all those shows in the fall. I'm going to need a break after we're done with all the fall craziness around Mac Stories.
Yeah, you need like maybe a month or maybe 3 years off to catch up on all the TV shows.
I know, and all the video games. I'm like behind. I've been playing the Switch a little bit more lately, but not a ton. So I'd like to get back into that as well. I haven't even bought Mario Maker. I want to start building my own, you know, platformers.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be able to find time for that once all the September madness is over.
Yep. Okay. Well, sounds good, Rob. I will talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Speak to you later.
Bye.